Man, I'm tired. These toddlers can suck your energy like vampires. But hey, still working on my rehab. There is no break in rehab and no rest days, so come and join me. Today everything will be about the wrist. Last week I talked about the fingers in rehab and injury prevention for jugglers and in the flow arts. This week I will talk about the wrist and all your possibilities there to prevent any problems, or if you already have problems, how to train proper that they won't be worse. But first let me introduce myself. I'm Kai. I run this YouTube channel all around juggling and the flow arts, how to build the tools, how to train with these tools, and basically every kind of tutorial around this topic. So if you are interested in it, it would be really great if you click the subscribe button, ring the bell icon so you don't miss any upcoming video. And now let's start with the rehab. If you missed my last video, you find it here in this corner or in this corner, somewhere floating around here. Basically, I had my last nails and metal removed from my left arm. So, of course, I have to do a little bit rehab before I dive into really hard training for juggling and flow arts again. And that's the perfect opportunity to talk with you about all of the juggling and flow art related problems in your joints. And this week will be all around your wrist. A pretty common problem place for the flow arts, or especially for juggling, or even worse for Diabolo. So you have 5 or 6 bones in your wrist. It's a pretty complicated part of your body, and basically no muscle in your wrist. There's only soft tissue and tendons around it, and every muscle which is important in the movement of your wrist is down in your forearm. First, a small disclaimer, I'm not a professional, I'm not a doctor or therapist or anything like that. I'm just a juggler and talk about my experience in this and what helped me in the past 20 years. So for the beginning, we're just looking at the range of motion in our wrist. For that, we just rotate it and look if there's any niggles or problems. And so basically you should absolutely do this in your warm-up to get through the whole motion in your wrist. And later I come to the topic of stretching. Why you shouldn't do it, but why it can be really important. But first I show you a few things which I use in rehab, and it's just a simple handheld for your training weights. Maybe you can add training weights to it if you are stronger. A stick with a string on it. This is a pretty expensive one. You can simply build it by yourself, buying a wood stick with around 3 or 4 centimeters in the diameter, and attach a rope to it, and if possible a carabiner to add the weight. And the last will be the Zim trainer. I talked to you already about it in my last video for the finger. And as I already mentioned, there are different versions. This is the version for your wrist. So maybe you know these flexi bars for your whole body workout, which are just wobbling around. And that's the same principle. So you have this wobbly spring, which you can lock into this handle. The spring comes in different strengths, like how hard it is to use. And you basically have the same wobble training effect for your wrist. This is an awesome tool to stabilize your wrist when you have really problems to lock your wrist in position while training. And last one, I already showed you in the last video, but again, it's also useful for your wrist, is a bucket full of rice. For the beginning, and as a kind of warm-up, we just use the bucket full of rice. In this case, it's a 10-liter bucket full of rice. And you can stick your hand into it until your wrist is totally covered with rice. And you just rotate your wrist. I show it with my other hand outside of the bucket. In every direction. And what you are doing, basically you go through the whole motion of your wrist, but against a soft resistance of the rice, so you activate all your muscles, your joints and your ligaments to get warm up in it. And you can do this for around 5 minutes and then start with more difficult or harder exercises. For that, you can grab your weight and in the first step, you can do basically simple curls with it. You should, or the easiest way is to lay down your forearm on your leg and hold the weight. And then you just simply make curls to strengthen all the muscles in your wrist stability. The weight on it depends on how good you're already trained. And the same is for the other side. And you can repeat 10 to 15 repetitions in one set and train with 3 sets in a row. And between every set, you should have a break around a minute or 2. Another possibility to use this is to grab it at one end. Again, your arm is flat on your leg and you rotate your wrist around 90 degrees and then go back again. This really helps to stabilize your wrist in rotation movements, and also it's a really good exercise if you have trouble in your elbow, like a tennis arm, tennis elbow or golfer elbow. This can increase also, it can decrease, of course, the problem here in your elbow. So it's a really useful exercise. And again, here you can add weight in the amount which is suited for you and which you feel a slightly training effect, but not too hard. And last one, this stick with a string, I just simply call it. For the beginning, just let me grab a weight. So here I have a 2 kilogram weight, but it always depends on your training. You put it to the string, lay it down on the floor, and now you stand up. You should have your elbows right beside your body and locked in nearly 90 degrees. Don't have stretched out arms, because we try to isolate every part and every muscle to train it by itself. And then you simply roll it up. And when you reached the top of it, don't just drop it down really fast or put it to the side, because now we are basically making isometric exercise, which means under the load of the weight, we put the weight downwards. And so we train to shorten basically the muscle. And in the other way, we train to open and relax the muscle again. So this is called isometric, which means you train the muscle to relax from the loaded position under load, which is a pretty important skill because it can happen after really much training that your muscle is always a little bit under too much tension and always pulls on your tendons, and that can cause to a lot of trouble. So the isometric training is there pretty helpful. And you also do this in the other direction. So in this case, I'm rolling it up this way. I lowered the weight in this direction before. And as I reach the top, you can have a short break and then lowering down the weight again. So this sim trainer comes in handy when you had an injury in your wrist. In my case, I had a broken wrist a couple of years ago, or just have problems to keep your wrists locked in specific positions under load. For example, always the Diabolo players have really hard locked wrists when they're playing on really thin sticks, and this can be really stressful. So to strengthen the stability of the joint, this sim trainer is perfect. You just simply grab it on your straight arm and then swing it from side to side and hold this for about 30 seconds. And it looks pretty easy, but your forearm gets pumped pretty fast. And also, you should absolutely rotate your wrist around 90 degrees and do it in the other direction. Here again for about 30 seconds. Then you can have a break and basically repeat it in 3 sets. So what I mean last to this stretching is if you don't have any problems, you should not stretch your wrists, because the stretching will decrease the stability of your wrist. But if you have problems in the movement of your wrists or with slightly stress in the tendons, I highly recommend to stretch it, because as I already mentioned, it can happen that the muscle put too much tension always on your tendon, and so you have to stretch this muscle that it can be relaxed and extend to its full length, and that it don't stretch always on the tendon. And it's important to know how to stretch. A lot of people, stay here. Okay, fine. A lot of people just grab their fingertips for stretching, but it's pretty useless when it's about your wrists. When you try to stretch your wrist, you should always grab the whole palm of your hand, yes, exactly, palm of your hand for the stretching, or the whole back of your hand for stretching. And you should stretch in 2 directions. One is with your fingers to your elbow, and also in this way with the fingers to your elbow. I personally don't like to do it full straight out with your arm, because in this position you're more likely to stretch a part of your elbow than when you have it slightly bent. In this part you can stretch much better only the movement in your wrist than in your whole forearm. So you can hold it for about 20 or 30 seconds, then have a slightly rest, go into the other direction and have rest again. For the rotation of your wrist, to stretch these, you basically need your whole arm. I try to show it. You have your arm just hanging at the side of your body. You will put your hand in a 90 degrees angle. Pay attention to your shoulder. Your shoulder shouldn't be up here. Your shoulder should be relaxed and down. And now you rotate your wrist inwards for the one direction. And always try to basically pull your hand upwards, and then you will feel the stretch here. And the same is for the other direction. And also, otherwise, your backside of your hand will be pointing to the floor. You will turn it and feel the slightly stretched here. Please stay aware where your shoulder is, and then turn around the other way. And basically, that's it. That's all you need as routine to do your wrist a little bit of favor and get more stability in your wrist and better flexibility when you need it, not always need it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I could help you a little bit when you have problems with your wrist. Again, I'm not a doctor, so if you have really bad problems and inflammation with it, go to visit a doctor. Don't hear on me. I'm just a stupid YouTube guy. And if you like content like that or all around the flowouts, it would be awesome if you click the subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and hey, a thumbs up doesn't hurt you and it shows me that you appreciate my work, so it would be awesome. And here, again, you find the subscription button, and here you find a video from last week where I talked about all the things you can do for your fingers. Bye!